Anyone who is Gen Z or older can fondly look back at the children's television blocks of yesteryear. At least within the scope of American culture, Saturday morning children's television blocks have been around since the 1950s. Whether you remember those earliest years, the Hanna-Barbera and superhero boom of the 60s and 70s, the commercialized wonders of the 80s, the halcyon, educational, and social justice-oriented 90s era, or post-Y2K's more globalized programming and continued content, it's safe to say most Americans, and international audiences in their own ways, can remember watching predetermined programming blocks aimed at their childhood. Not only are there blocks special to each generation, but within those generations, there are blocks targeting different age groups. Whether you watched Muguzi, Toonami, or Adult Swim, there was something crafted and tailored to your life experience. In my reflection of years past, I recalled Toonzai, a networking block on the CW that aired from May 2008 to August 2012. First established as CW4Kids, this children's cartoon programming block, which aired Saturday mornings from 7 a.m. to 12 p.m., was born out of an agreement between 4Kids Entertainment and the CW. Directly following the cancellation of the exalted Kids WB block, the CW4Kids began and aired under that name until the introduction of the Toonzai rebranding in mid-2010. Toonzai as a name is a portmanteau of cartoon and the Japanese word bonsai. Bonsai translates roughly to 10,000 years. The term has roots in China and was used to wish long life and good fortune, often to emperors. It was also used as a battle cry by Japanese soldiers during World War II and is associated with gyokusai, meaning shattered jewel, which is essentially honorable suicide rather than being captured by the enemy. This network block had a mascot in the form of a ninja who would often shout Toonzai, mimicking the battle cry nature of bonsai. We can reevaluate in 2026 if this was truly the best name and identity for the network, but it certainly stood out as memorable and clearly pointed at the Japanese programming that the block played. To that point, this block emphasized multiple anime shows. Mainstays included multiple Yu-Gi-Oh! Series, from the original anime to GX, 5Ds, and even Zexal. Other prominent Japanese programming included Dragon Ball Z Kai, Dinosaur King, Magical Do-Re-Mi, Kirby Right Back Atcha, and Sonic X, amongst others. The block did not solely show anime, however, and some of the other prominent cartoons included the 2003 Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Viva Pinata, Johnny Test, The Batman, Winx Club, which is my favorite show of the block and the standout for me from the CW4Kids days, and more. It was a good, solid, formative for many run, though back in 2012, Saban Brands acquired the block and it was relaunched as Vortex. Vortex would air from mid-2012 to mid-2014, even keeping some of the same programming as Toonzai, before its eventual end and replacement with a completely different block. In terms of content, this was a pretty great lineup. One of the shows I most enjoyed and most associate with this era is, as I said, Winx Club, an Italian show about a group of teenage fairies who attend a fairy boarding school. They must grow into their powers, keep the evil witches at bay, and maybe sneak in some time for romance with the specialists, as the boys were called. As is the case with many shows, Winx Club actually has multiple English dubs. CW4Kids obviously showed the 4Kids dub, which I feel is pretty decent. After Winx was taken over by Nickelodeon in 2011, I feel it really went downhill. Another show I remember well from Toonzai was Dragon Ball Z Kai, which felt like a very important cultural moment having grown up on other dubs of the show. Despite that, I wouldn't end up watching this newer edit of the anime until just last year, actually. I do remember the promo for it, and my siblings occasionally watching, but it didn't capture my full attention at the time. Also champion amongst the lineup was Sonic X, an anime about Sonic and his friends getting stuck on Earth, with new human allies included. This English dub of Sonic X is the actual origin of the Blue Hedgehog's iconic "Gotta Go Fast" line. I also really enjoyed the inclusion and focus on other characters such as Amy and Cream. And the opening theme is sick. The last show I'll throw a shout out to from this lineup is Yu-Gi-Oh! Having read the manga as a child, actually starting with Millennial World after discovering it at the library one summer, and growing up with the Cartoon Network airings of the show, I always enjoyed catching any episodes. I also played the card game with my siblings and just felt an attachment to the franchise. That being said, I did not watch past GX. Also, good timing, I happened to see that Yu-Gi-Oh! The Abridged series just turned 20, which is insane, but props to little Karibo. I overheard some boys in my class chatting about the web series one day, years and years ago, and when I had chimed in, they did not believe that I actually watched it and knew what I was talking about. The discrimination I faced for simply liking what was considered a boyish thing at the time is crazy. I similarly was lightly teased for liking Naruto, Superman, and even Pokemon over the years. Regardless, I have enjoyed similar media, including the aforementioned Toonzai programming, throughout my life, and I'm not going to stop now. Beyond the content itself, this little revisit has prompted a few different thoughts. I personally look back fondly at Toonzai and other similar blocks. However, as it and I stand now, it would drive me crazy not to be able to watch pretty much whatever I want on demand. I began to weigh the pros and cons of such pre-established programming blocks. A positive that could be said is that with this lineup pre-chosen, any analysis paralysis would be alleviated, relegating a viewer's power to simply picking a channel. With clearly defined blocks, as well, children, or any viewer, would be limited to certain hours of programming. If you wanted to watch these shows, you would have to watch them at particular times, building a sense of anticipation and also instilling patience and delayed gratification in youth. Even if utilizing a DVR or even blank VHS tape back in the day, there is still a limit to the amount of programming shown. Sure, you could rewatch something over and over, as I always did, but even so, there was less exposure to constant content. It was not the pervasive beast that media and the internet have become. I truly believe that was healthier for humans in so many ways. We seem to have forgotten that it's not normal to be online staring at screens like Wall-E humans all day long. There was also more of a shared collectivism to the viewing experience. People engaged with coworkers and peers about what played on TV the night before. In that sense, watching TV used to be and feel more communal, less individualized. It was easier to discuss and make friends in person. Of course, now online spaces dominate, and you can surely find community for pretty much any form of media, but you won't necessarily find that connection with someone IRL. While I think this collective aspect had positives for sure, I think it is also good to beware cultural hegemony and point out potential lack of representation. This is a nuanced discussion, and there is certainly more to be said and explored, but for the purposes of this little video, I think I will leave it with those initial musings. So with all that being said, do you remember Toonzai? Which show was your favorite? Or maybe you remember another programming block that has stayed with you. I would love to hear any and all thoughts in the comments. Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe if you are interested in other videos related to nostalgic content, as well as reviews and character analyses of various franchises I enjoy. I hope you have an incredible and joyful day. Until next time.